know that I used to work for a huge Japanese pharmaceutical company called Japan Pharmaceutical Development Corporation. And I worked for a gentleman named Dr. Hagiwara, and Dr. Hagiwara made a product called Barley Green and Green Magma. Does anybody remember those products at all? It's okay, this was a long time ago. I was all into wheatgrass. I was taught by Ann Wigmore that wheatgrass was this ultimate healing food, and she took me and I volunteered at a clinic in Boston. And people would come there who were so desperate, who were so near death, who were so absolutely walking dead. And no color in their eyes, no color in their skin, regardless of their race. You know, no smile on their faces, and that smell that comes from a body that's dying. And we'd go and we'd start to serve them wheatgrass. Every day I'd give them these different foods, Ritubalac and energy soup, and mostly wheatgrass, lots of wheatgrass. And these people who had been given up by all other medical science, these people who had been given up on by their families, people who had actually given up on themselves and were told, maybe there's a chance. There's this crazy lady over in Boston doing this weird stuff with green juice, and it seems to be working. And so I would go there and I'd see, after a couple of days, you'd see the color come back to their skin and some brightness come back to their eyes. And sometimes that smell would go away and they would make it. And the way that you feel when someone that you meet that's gonna die for sure, like a plane headed toward the ground, and all of a sudden they grab those wheels, that thing, and they pull up in the nose just before it hits the ground, and they start to pull up, and they know it. You can see it in their face and their eyes. They know it. They know that they're going to make it, and it's beautiful. And wheatgrass is the reason for that. Well, I was looking for a way to make this my life, and I read about this Japanese company who was making dried barley juice. And it was a lot very similar to wheatgrass, and so I went to work for them, and after a few years, I kept demanding information, and they wouldn't give it to me. So I sent it out to the laboratory myself to be tested, and it came back, it was 40% sugar. It had chemical residues, so it wasn't organic, and it didn't have any enzymes, so it had been pasteurized, and yet the doctor had told me it was live, pure, and organic. So here I was humiliated, so I actually did something really unusual. I decided I would go into business and I would deliver to the world what I had been promising them working for this gentleman. So a long story short, again, through incredible providence, I was introduced to a team of scientists who had discovered a seed in an Egyptian tomb. A seed discovered in an Egyptian tomb that was thousands of years old, stored in an urn to be the food of the kings and the pharaohs when they came into the afterlife. And out of those thousands of seeds, 7 of them germinated. Scientists studied those seeds and found it to be the most ancient grain known to man, a variety of wheat. And I asked them if I could grow wheatgrass from this ancient Egyptian treasure. And they said yes. Now remember, Edward Case, a great seer of the future, predicted that the food that would heal this planet would be discovered in an Egyptian tomb. This is the only food that's ever been discovered in an Egyptian tomb. Now, at the same time, I was introduced to a Mormon, a crazy Mormon rebel who was at war with the Mormon church because he had created a process to dry vegetables and fruits so they could be stored for years at a time, as was required by the church. And he was telling the church that all the food they were storing would just cause cancer and death and diabetes. So even if they ate it, they wouldn't be surviving. And they wouldn't listen to him. Thank goodness for us, because if they had, he never would have given the technology to me. This ancient seed, together with this unbelievable technology that for the first time in history allowed us to take a food and with no heat and no preservatives whatsoever, extract the juice from that food, dry it into a stable powder, so that that powder can be consumed years later with 100% of the benefits as if it were taken fresh from the field. Now I want to just, is anybody here considered an environmentalist at all? Anybody at all consider yourself green? Well, I do. And my company is very proud of the fact that if you take an acre of broccoli to be sold in the store, 20% of that broccoli ultimately gets consumed, okay? And it's probably cooked, so there's a lot of nutrients lost. 100% of the nutrients that come from 1 acre of my field is 20 times the nutrients in 1 acre of broccoli. 100% of it gets converted into a stable powder. 100% of it gets consumed, and it gets transported all over the world for a fraction of the price of fresh raw vegetables. So what we're doing is also green, but I digress. Green kamut is the ultimate wheatgrass juice. Ann Wigmore taught me that wheatgrass juice was an incredible benefit to the body. There's been books and clinics set up all around the world to treat people with wheatgrass now. And so green kamut is an ancient Egyptian seed discovered in a tomb, grown in pure virgin soil high in the mountains in Utah, extracted and turned into a stable powder so that for pennies a day you could have the benefits of drinking fresh organic wheatgrass juice. Now, what are those benefits? First of all, everybody's heard that we need to alkalize our body. Nothing is better at alkalizing than wheatgrass juice. Certainly better than Kangen water, which isn't even a food. The only reason anybody would, and nothing against Kangen water, but the only reason anybody would even need it is if they weren't eating right. And it's better to eat right, you see, than to try to change some exterior balance because you haven't eaten right. And eating right, according to Genesis 1:29 in the Bible, says, I've given you the seed-bearing fruits of the vine, the grasses of the field. That means fruits and vegetables, y'all. It's not that complicated. So wheatgrass is the ultimate green vegetable. Now I'm going to tell you a quick story, very quick. Has anybody read the Essene Gospel of Peace? It's a book written by the gentleman who literally interpreted the Dead Sea Scrolls for the Pope, for the papacy. He interpreted some scrolls that were found that were attributed to the Essenes. If you've ever seen Essene bread, like that sprouted grain bread, Ezekiel bread, that's Essene bread. The Essenes lived in the desert, and Jesus used to go in the desert for 40 days at a time to fast and stay with the Essenes. So in the words of those scrolls, I want to quote something to you. The Essenes came to Jesus and they asked him, when I seek healing from your Father, how should I address him? And Jesus said, cast not your eyes to the heavens, but instead to the humble grass that lay beneath your feet. Take that grass and chew it well, then spit out the fibers. And when you do, the angel of the earth, the angel of the sun, the angel of the water, and the angel of the air will enter your body and heal you. This is the gift of my Father. And that sent shivers up and down my spine because I had been promoting the use of wheatgrass to heal for over 20 years before those scrolls were interpreted. So it's pretty crazy. So wheatgrass juice is an incredible healing food. I believe it is in many ways an ordained food because of its position in nature. And green kamut is the ultimate wheatgrass juice for the ultimate seed, the ultimate soil, the ultimate process. And when you take it, it alkalizes, oxygenates, detoxifies your body. And anybody who takes green kamut 3 times a day for 7 days is going to be able to make such a list of benefits and improvements in their health like nothing they've ever seen before. So,
Thank you. Thank you.